They're back. Indeed. Yeah, Braden. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I get it. San Diego FC is like, wow, already? The fans are like, we already have soccer going already, but this is not normal. Like, we have the Champions Cup to talk about. And unfortunately for other clubs, especially at this level, that's not a given. This is something that San Diego FC has earned, and we're going to get a chance to see them against some of the best clubs in North America and the Caribbean.
Yeah, let's talk about the CONCACAF Champions League and Cup and how this particularly works with San Diego FC qualifying after winning the Western Conference. Let's talk about what San Diego FC fans should be in store for this season with these games added into the MLS schedule.
Yeah, so basically the CONCACAF Champions Cup, is, if you're a soccer fan of any kind, you've probably seen the UEFA Champions League in Europe, where they have the best clubs on the continent play in a knockout tournament, round robin and knockout tournament. That's exactly what the Champions Cup is here in CONCACAF in the North America and the Caribbean. So it's about 27 teams. You've got pretty much everyone represented from the Canadian Championship. Obviously, that's Vancouver FC, not Vancouver Whitecaps, but because Vancouver Whitecaps, they have also their involvement in MLS, so you're going to have them involved as well. Mount Pleasant, who is the best of the best in the Caribbean. They're from Jamaica, so you're going to have 3 from the Caribbean. You're going to have 6 from Central America, anywhere from Costa Rica to Honduras and all over the place. And then, of course, you got your Mexican teams. You've got a couple of Canadian teams as well in Forge FC and Atletico Ottawa. And then, of course, your MLS. So that's San Diego FC, that's Seattle Sounders, who won the Leagues Cup last year, LA Galaxy, Inter Miami being the MLS Cup winner. And you also have Philadelphia Union, Cincinnati, as I mentioned, the Whitecaps, and LAFC. And then, of course, Pumas, who will be facing San Diego in the open round, in addition to the 2 winners of the Mexican tournaments, the Apertura tournament and Liga MX, and then the Clausura. So you have Club America, who won the Apertura, and then Toluca, who won the Clausura, and then, of course, Monterrey Tigres as well. So it's a hodgepodge of the best. And if you won your domestic league, or if you at least finish second, then you get a first-round bye. So Miami, Seattle, Club America, Toluca, they'll have byes, as well as Vancouver and Mount Pleasant from Jamaica. But everyone else starts at round 1.
We're talking with Drake Hills, who's a contributing writer for Black Players for Change, as we talk about the new season for San Diego FC. It's already here. It will be on February 3rd. It'll be the first game here at Snapdragon Stadium, as they will compete in CONCACAF Cup play, CONCACAF Champions Cup play, and then MLS Cup or MLS regular season will start a little bit later. But pretty cool that they get to be part of a tournament, obviously, with the great season that they had last year. Now, Drake, as we get into this game for them on, I think, Tuesday of next week, if I'm not mistaken, or Wednesday. What are some of the challenges that they're going to face in this first game that's not for the MLS, but part of the CONCACAF Champions Cup?
Yeah, I think 2 things, Braden. I'm going to start with internal, right? We've had a lot of transactions, a couple of players moving out. I know we'll talk about Chucky Lozano in a bit, but even Lozano aside, you've got Franco Negri, who's gone to Houston. You've got Paddy McNair, who's gone back to Europe. He signed with Hull City. So a lot of moving and shifting going on at the back end. But then, of course, you have some of your other players that really helped. Obviously, Oni Valakari is back, but you get Lewis Morgan, who will be an incredible addition. Amal Pellegrino, we know what he did at the end of the season. So I think internally it's understanding that what you thought was going to be a long-term plan for some key role players in this San Diego FC team that have gone elsewhere in the offseason. And so it's a new group already, only in year 2. And then externally, Pumas is one of the better teams that's always competitive in Liga MX. This is a club that, again, if you are familiar with world soccer, you've got Keylor Navas, a former Real Madrid and PSG goalkeeper. He's with them, Jose Juan Macias. Coco Carrasquilla, who has been a long time Panama national team stalwart as well as someone who's played a lot of years in Houston Dynamo. You've got a lot of top players there. They once had Aaron Ramsey there as well, if you're a former Arsenal fan. So sitting sixth in the Liga MX season that has already started, this is going to be a new level of competition for San Diego FC.
You might have explained it a little bit earlier, but just to reiterate on how these matches work, the first round, you get 2 games. You get one at home and one on the road. And then how does this play out? I think it's different than the way that the MLS structure was. I think this is more like international play that you see in a lot of other cups and different league champions, leagues and everything like that. But for the casual fan, explain to them how this particular cup works in terms of like the rounds, how many games you play, and how they determine who advances into the next round.
Yeah, so you have essentially 4 weeks worth of round one matchups across all 22 teams that will play in round one. You have 5 of the teams, so that's 27 in total that are in the competition that already have byes into the round of 16. Then it's essentially a knockout all the way down to the final. So this tournament is going to take place from basically next Thursday until May 30th. That's when the final is. And so you're essentially going to have a home and home and round one. And then after that, it's just a knockout all the way through to May 30th. And so, to be clear, the first 4 stages are going to be home and away. So basically all you're thinking about in terms of a one-off is the final itself. So every club that gets a chance to play in this tournament is going to have an opportunity to play at home in the Champions Cup at each round. And then when you get to the final, then of course it's a one-off.
That's a good explanation. That's especially with the way that this tournament's going to be. So this is going to be going on as San Diego FC is getting ready for the regular season and playing regular season games. We're talking with Drake Hills, who comes on to be our soccer guru each and every Friday during the soccer season, which starts on February 3rd. Already next week, San Diego FC will be back in action. But let's talk about kind of the offseason that San Diego FC has put together. I mean, obviously that they have invested in Mikey Varas to be the guy and be here long term. The Chucky Lozano situation continues to be very interesting for most people in soccer, and some other moves that were made for San Diego FC. How would you assess the San Diego FC offseason, and what's your opinion on the Chucky Lozano situation with San Diego FC?
Well, I like that they were very, I guess you could say, anticipatory of what they were going to do. And based off of Lewis Morgan, who I've been following for quite a while now, since his time at Celtic, and he came to MLS. He's been with Red Bulls. He's been with Miami for the better part of, since pre-pandemic, essentially, he's been playing in MLS. Wilson Eisner, you've got Kieran Sargent, obviously very well-known last name. Oswald So from B93. You sign Anders Dreyer to an extension. But again, the biggest signing for me was Lewis Morgan, because what that does is tell me that Chucky Lozano and the plans that don't include Chucky Lozano have basically been in play since the end of last year, which brings me to Chucky. This is a tough situation, not for either of the clubs, both currently San Diego FC and whoever Chucky is going to go to. It's a tough situation for Chucky Lozano because it's a World Cup year. And World Cup years, if you follow the game, you'll know you really don't want to make any movements but ahead of a World Cup, because you're trying to make the team, which Chucky Lozano's relationship with the Mexican Football Federation has been rocky, to put it politely. Jimmy Lozano, who is someone who was at the top of the federation that Chucky did not have a great relationship with. The last coach that has had a great relationship with Chucky Lozano, the Mexican national team, has been Tata Martino, who's now back with Atlanta United, who I think, apart from Houston Dynamo, is probably one of the 2 destinations that look attractive, at least from a tactical perspective. Now, as far as Chucky Lozano is concerned, I don't think the problem is a potential team fit. The problem is his salary. Well, let's talk about that, Braden. I mean, the fact that this is a guy who is about $5.25 million difference in terms of guaranteed salary between Lozano and your best player, who is Andres Dreyer. Think about that. Chucky Lozano is getting guaranteed compensation as far as the 2025 salary, $5.25 million. The $5.25 million difference. Now, of course, that's under the contract that Andres Dreyer had before he had his extension over the offseason. But that is just telling you that a player who's earning a little bit over $7.5 million in guaranteed compensation, I don't think that a club in Mexico or in Major League Soccer is willing to pull that trigger. So the problem is, will Chucky Lozano be willing to take a significant pay cut to go to, let's say, a Cruz Azul in Mexico, who is one of the most successful top teams in Mexico and a reigning champion? They have some business to take care of as well to make way for him. But then internally, I don't think he's going to get anywhere near $7.6 or so million a year to go to a Houston or to go to an Atlanta. So the biggest problem for Lozano is, are you willing to take a pay cut to find your next team before the 2026 FIFA World Cup?
I got one last question for you, Drake, and we're running out of time here at the end of the week. But they did make a roster move this week. City UFC did. They transferred defender Patty McNair to the EFL Championship side, Hull City, on a permanent deal while retaining a future sell-on percentage. Obviously, he was part of the original backbone of this defensive side for San Diego FC, but it really shows that they're leaning young defensively in the future. How did you see how this roster move played out and what the future is for San Diego going young?
Yeah, I mean, Ian Pilcher has kind of come in and put in a good shift for San Diego FC, or at least on paper looks like a good signing for the future. McVay, obviously one of the great aerial center backs as well. I think that this is, again, like going back to the beginning, that we thought this time last year when you and I were talking about, is San Diego FC going to be good, and are they going to have a playoff season? Are they going to make the playoffs? How deep are they going to go in the playoffs in their inaugural year? We thought that this group was going to be together for at least, a couple, 3 years to see how they would form together. And here we are talking about Chucky Lozano on the way out. We're talking about Patty McNair leaving. Milan Olaski left in the summer. And we haven't really got a chance to see Marcus Ingvartsen much because of his injury-laden season last year. So it's a different situation, but I do think the youth is a great view on what San Diego FC can be for the next couple of years.
Drake, it's good to talk to you again. It's good to have you back for the soccer season. Look forward to next week as we recap the first game of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Drake Hills joining us from Black Players for Change. He'll be joining us next week. Big appreciation to him for joining us.